And,
So let's get right into it, Mel.
yeah, for sure. Cool, man. No, am I batty in thinking that
am
the
I batty for
microbiome is the
thinking that
way
the
to
whole body-
enlightenment?
So we agree on that, though.
So we're gonna have an awesome chat today. Maybe we agree that we're both batty. I don't know. No, so I mean, if you take basic principles, principles of digestion, we know in the colon that there's a fermentation process, and the microbiome is in charge of that. So depending what the human organism puts in is the output that is going to happen in that particular space. So if one were to take meat eating, which is, probably one of the biggest reasons for some of the colon cancers, and depending on people's organisms in terms of biome, depends on how fast that is moving out. So in a state of constipation, which has become a really big chronic disorder, people are not excreting that toxic sludge out fast enough. Whereas a vegetarian or vegan diet, you have a huge amount of fiber going in. So that fiber nourishes the biome and it causes the motility that is required to push out fast. So we see less colon cancers in vegan, vegetarian-based dietary folk as we do to the meat-eating folk. There's a lot more complexity around the thought of that, but there's a distinctive fermentation or rotting process that happens in the colon, and the biome, depending on its strength, has to try and push that stuff out real fast.
So I think
pretty much, yeah. So it's and then if you look at exercise, if we just take exercise as a simple scenario, your mitochondria and your liver and a whole lot of other metabolic processes, but let's just narrow it down to one key process, ATP, is a mitochondrial process to generate energy.
Yeah.
Now, the mitochondria is bacteria, so the way they generate energy is again in a fermentation process. And we know this when we start beating our body in the exercise regime and we start breaking muscle mass, we have lactic acid forming.
Mm-hmm.
But lactic acid is a fermentation excrete of our friends lactobacillus.
Yes.
So one can again allude to the fact that there's another fermentation process happening in the human organism. I think one could go on and on. If you look at the heart muscle, there's bacteria in that heart muscle. And so if we look at the rhythm and the beat of the heart, is that potentially not a fermentation process?
Just respiration, right?
Fermentation,
Yeah.
right? So are we batty in thinking that the human organism has a ferment going on? I don't think so. And I think if you walk past certain organisms, they ferment and excrete that. So you can smell it. It's quite evident that it's there. But I think fermentation, I think fermentation is just, it's maybe understudied. The true, how would we put it, the kind of deep dark secrets of fermentation and how it would positively affect the human organism. Batty, yes.
Okay.
Love it.
Forky, what are you studying now?
Okay, so yeah, so I actually did I did my whole doctorate in natural medicine, but my it's funny enough, the two key facets that came out of that was quantum, which is neuroscience, and then nutrition. So my biggest field of research is really around the microbiome. I've done several microbiome talks. I'm incredibly passionate about bacteria in the body, and from a quantum, I'm trying to bring it into the quantum facet to say it's more than that. As a human organism, what are we really? How do we define self? And self from non-self is our bacteria. So we are a microcosm in a macrocosm because they make up the macrocosm called the human. And then there's human on earth, and we are microcosms in that next macrocosm. So it's kind of an infinite wave of organisms clumped together forming something big. Like cells form organs and organs form people, but bacteria does the same. We're 90% bacteria. So that's my biggest, I'm so passionate about these little oaks.
What are you studying right now? And because our last conversation we had, which was really in depth, which I want to touch on now again, which is the fecal transplant.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, you're doing the quantum, more into the quantum side.
I'm into quantum science and medicine, yeah. So spirit sciences, so it's mind, body, medicine. Let's call it that.
Okay.
Yeah. And well, when we talk about topic number 3, potentially, you know, using the energy field or the energy organisms, or what is happening in the energetic process of these oaks and how it affects chakras if one wants to, and how we then pivot ourselves into a mode of enlightenment with nutrition. Well, that's my next thing, my next big thing. Loving it. So tons of research to do, lady.